So I was in political science. There was like 500 students in this class, maybe more. I was in this class and I was struggling so much, and I would fall asleep in class almost every time I got in there. That was the only class I was falling asleep in. I could not keep my eyes open. And he was swimming underwater, and he didn't come back up quick enough for the lifeguard's liking. And the lifeguard long whistled, which means I'm going in to make a save to save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And Sam Heiniger was managing at the time, so she comes sprinting out to go figure out who's dying, because that's what the long whistle means, is someone's life is at risk. And she runs down to realize that...
Alright guys, welcome back to Baker's Factory. And looks like this Baker's Factory, we got the big fam in the house. It's a shame Kitty Baker's not even here. But we do got Jenna Nicole Baker over here by her mom as well. Valerie Ann Baker.
Her mom, not your mom.
I was like, also your mom.
Just saying.
It is your daughter, so
That is true.
We're good on that. And the big boy on campus, not only the big boy on campus, Eric Baker. Eric Baker, baby.
In the house.
In the house.
This is a first. Mom and dad on the podcast at the same time.
Yeah, but no Katie. What happened to Katie?
Katie Baker.
What happened?
It's like we're having our, this is like the original.
Yeah.
This is pre-Katie.
Yeah, this is the pre-Katie conversation.
Well, I am glad Katie's not on this podcast with us, but I don't mind having Mom and Dad join us. So that's going to be awesome.
Okay, I'm glad Mom and Dad are here because I have a topic I would like to discuss, and I think that this is great that Mom and Dad are both here. Did you guys see my Instagram story from yesterday?
I'm horrible at Instagram. You know that.
I don't know.
The text messages between me and Derek.
Did not see.
Derek texted me yesterday at 1:45 p.m. and he said, "Are you my assistant?"
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I saw the text. I saw that screenshot. I couldn't read it.
Did you not have your glasses
We
down?
were
I
at the
didn't have
doctor.
my glasses, and I couldn't make it bigger. So
Okay, here's the exchange.
I saw the text.
You said the text, bro.
I saw the text on Instagram before I take it to you.
Derek says, "Are you my assistant?" I respond, "More like manager or executive producer." I always say I'm like the executive producer of his life, And he said, exactly. Is a assistant is. I said, no. He said, assistant is just like a manager. I said, no, it's not. Assistants get told what to do. Managers make decisions. He said, that's you. I said, yes, decision maker, a.k.a. manager.
So we were at the CPAP doc when all that went down, and it's really kind of funny because I told the CPAP doc, not really an assistant, more like a manager, and that's how you replied. I thought it was funnier than heck that I knew exactly what you were going to say.
I am not your assistant, bro.
And the way I explain it is you can fire an assistant, your manager can fire you.
Exactly. And assistants do great work. But generally speaking, assistants do what they are asked to do.
Maybe
I tell you no all the time because I'm the decision maker here.
well, that just makes you not a very good assistant.
Because I'm not an assistant.
Nice one, Dad.
Oh my God. Katie Baker having to take notes right now.
You like how Dad jumped on your side, huh? Yeah.
Not sure why after that last one.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Anyway, moving on. We're gonna
move on.
Yeah.
Buddies.
This is a little bit old news, but since Dad's here, I do want to talk about it with Dad. You got to go down to the cabin and see the eclipse in totality. You had the best view of the whole family.
Yes, I did. While you guys were all gallivanting around on the East Coast.
We saw clouds and you saw totality.
It was a beautiful day. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. Had nephews and their families down on the gravel bar at the river, and there it was. Perfect.
How long did it last? Like, tell us like the kind of like the timeline. When did it start covering the sun? How long did it cover the sun?
Oh, I bet it started covering the sun about an hour before totality started.
Really?
And then about that much time before it was completely off the sun.
So how dark did it really get?
It got dark. I mean, it was weird because where you were at, it was dark, but you could look both directions and you could see the edge of totality.
Okay.
And you could see the light. So it was like it was dusk because light was coming in from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But it was plenty dark.
So when it was in totality and you're looking at the sun and the moon and the eclipse, do you see like the little ring around the moon? So it's just like,
oh yeah, you could when you were in totality at that point, you could take your glasses off, and you could look at the eclipse, and I mean it looked like a black spot, and it just had flames coming around it. It was pretty far out.
So where you were, this couldn't happen because there are no streetlights around. But I heard in other places where they were in cities where it went to totality that the streetlights actually came on.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened. There's no doubt that happened. I mean, you know how right before dark the birds will start chirping, like when they're getting ready to roost and all that. All those natural sounds that you hear occurred, and it was, and even leading up to it. I mean, as the moon started getting more and more over it, you put your glasses on, you could look, and you could just barely see a little sliver of sun. And as long as you could see it, just that little bit of sun, it was bright enough outside where you didn't really, I mean, you realized something was going on because it was kind of an odd color. At that time, the game started chirping and talking. But as soon as that last little bit of sun went away and you were in totality, I mean, it was completely dark with the light coming in from the sides, kind of sort of thing. But the birds were singing, and just it was nighttime in all practicality. All the insects that start singing at night, they started kind of chirping and doing their thing. Yeah.
And how long did totality last about?
Where I was at, just a touch over 3 minutes, like 3:10, I think is what we were scheduled.
So it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of the eclipse,
yeah, I took my phone and did a time lapse lit video. And put it on the Instagram page so you can kind of see it. It kind of gets a little dimmer, and then it's dark, and then for a period of time, then it lights back up again.
On Baker Banter Dad.
On
Instagram.
Baker Banter Dad, yeah.
So turkey hunting has started.
Turkey season started yesterday.
And did you have success?
Well, we had a good day yesterday. We had.
Mom would like you to hunt the turkeys in the neighborhood.
Yes, I would. No, I would really just like you to kill the turkeys in the neighborhood.
It was funny.
That's true.
We had a fair amount of gobbling going on, and we had some jakes. Anybody know what a jake is that's sitting in this room?
A young male.
A young male. There were 5 of them.
We have been married 34 years. I'm not new.
I also knew that. Mom just beat me to it because
Anyway.
I have been your daughter for 30 years.
Anyway, we had 5 jakes come into the decoys, and they kind of hung around. They're legal. They had beards. We could have shot them. We chose to let the young ones pass, and they went away. And then I don't know if it was it's got to be the same 5 jakes. They left this away, and I think they went down in the draw and came up around. But then we saw them crossing the field and called to them, and they came back into us from the other side. And when they come in this time,
So 5 very intelligent adolescent males.
Oh yeah, very.
So they were really
intelligent.
teasing you.
Oh, they were something else. Well, this time they decided to engage with the decoys. And you know how fun those gobblers are that are in our neighborhood. And they all get all puffed up. And they gave our decoys a beat down. They got on top. They were trying to mate with our decoys.
Like I said, very bright adolescent males. That's all I got.
David, I called them the college boys.
Oh my God.
And yeah, they beat those decoys into the ground. They bent the stakes that they were on. They did. No question. We were there for 20 minutes, it seemed like. So at some point on my YouTube channel, Baker Banter Dad, I will have the video pop up on that.
Oh my lord!
But it'll be a while. It'll be a long video.
So you had to
edit.
fix the decoys.
So we had to go out there and fix the decoys, and then.
So do you only know that they're Jakes because they're just like not quite big enough, or is there something else that indicates Jake versus
Well,
Tom?
they just have a smaller beard. It's kind of like a deer with smaller antlers.
Okay.
But Jakes were essentially born last year.
Okay.
They're last year's birds.
Speaking of antlers,
Oh, yeah. While we were out walking around, 2 weeks ago, or I guess a week ago.
the same weekend as the Eclipse.
Just the Saturday and Sunday before the Eclipse on the 8th. We were out. We took my nephews that was down there. The one that did the charade. Anyway, we took his kids out turkey hunting, and we did see turkeys on Saturday. We didn't have any interactions with them, and then the kids were getting bored, so we got up and started walking around mushroom hunting, and we happened to be in the area of Missouri down there where the elk restoration is, and we found an elk antler, a big one, the six point side.
Wow.
How long is it? Like 3 or 4 feet?
Oh yeah, it's 3 feet probably, 30 inches to 3 feet.
Like longer than the table.
Oh, definitely longer than the table. It's that long.
Oh,
You got 6 points on it.
Speaking of antler,
You know what he did with it, Derek?
he hung it at the cabin.
You guess what it's hanging
That's
under?
crazy.
The hornet's nest.
The hornet's
I know
nest.
that for sure. Wasn't happy about that.
So, Dad, you have some news about Whitey Herzog?
Yeah, it's sad. A sad day in St. Louis today. There was news that he passed today. He was 92.
Yeah.
Well, he lived a full life.
He lived a full life. Definitely one of my favorite Cardinals.
Yeah, he was at opening day.
He was at opening
Really?
day. Yeah,
he was there.
Oh,
he didn't
yeah.
he didn't look
He didn't.
well.
No, he didn't. But he was up in the booth.
He was up on the
He was
Jumbotron.
up on the jumbo. They had him up on a. They had to assist him into a chair.
Yeah, he didn't look
But,
really well. But he was at opening day, which was what? What
2
was it?
weeks ago?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the 4th, I think.
Yeah, the
So,
4th.
Yeah.
So,
Whitey Ball.
Whitey Ball.
It was a great time in
It was
Cardinals
exciting,
history.
brand of baseball. I loved his brand of baseball. It's so much different than what you see today. A lot of running, a lot of stealing bases, a lot of base hits, anything to get on base, steal the bases, score it any way you can get.
Manufacturing
Manufacture
runs.
runs.
Well, the world also
sad.
lost somebody else this week that is certainly not as good of a person as Whitey Herzog, but I do have a question for you guys. OJ Simpson
Yeah.
passed away. What
Yes.
I want to know is, do you guys remember where you were
Oh hell yeah, I remember.
during the chase?
During the chase,
and
yeah.
what was that experience like?
It was crazy. I mean, that was
Were we
probably
together?
no. I was at lunch with
What year was
a
that?
friend up there at, I can't remember the name of the bar and grill, but it was up there at like 141 and Clayton Road.
Kriegers.
It wasn't Krieger's.
R.I.P. Kriegers.
But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like that was probably one of the first live streaming kinds of events in our lifetime that obviously have just become more and more normal now. Wasn't very normal to have the news on for hours at a time back then.
I mean, I think I was home when it happened. I
It
don't
was
know.
in the middle of the day.
Well, I don't. I remember sitting in the living room with my dad watching that whole thing.
It could have been the end of
It
it.
could have been the end of it, or it could have been just,
Repeats.
Yeah, just repeats the news of
Is
it.
your dad Don Baker?
It is. He is. Yes.
And where you were at a bar and grill with a friend, you said?
Yeah, we were there for lunch. It was in the middle of the week. We were there.
And it went on for hours?
No, the chase went on for hours, and it wasn't a high-speed
I
chase.
didn't think it. I thought it was later on in the evening.
Well, maybe you were working at a construction job and you just got off early afternoon.
Well, that could be, but
And Mom had a late lunch.
Yeah, I don't.
you
I
sure
don't
you
know.
weren't at dinner?
I don't think so.
Because it also happened in California,
I'm aware.
which would 2 hours
Behind.
earlier than us.
Yeah, crazy.
A lot of people did.
So if it happened at 2 o'clock out there, it'd be 4 or 5 here. But it went on for a long time.
I think it was in the middle of the day, but regardless,
In any event,
we could look it up. But Jack, look it up and tell me who's right.
1994.
He already did.
Okay, well, I just had a feeling you guys
Speaking
would probably remember
people-
exactly where you were when that took place.
Speaking of people passing away, you guys didn't know this young man I'm going to talk about is the character from Friends. His name is Matthew Perry.
Yeah,
We all know who you're talking about. He actually
Yeah.
passed away the day I got engaged.
it's been a while. It
It was
fall.
October 28th.
It was.
I know.
It was the day when you got engaged.
Speaking of me getting engaged, I went to drop off my car today to get the oil changed. And our car guy, Joe, he loves listening to the podcast. So shout out to Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hello,
He well, actually, he told me before I got he told me before this part of the conversation that he loves listening to the podcast. Then he noticed my ring on my finger and he said, "Well, when did that happen? You didn't tell me about that." And I said, "Well, Joe, I thought you listened to the podcast."
She called you out, Joe.
Nailed ya.
and then what's the other guy's name?
Greg?
Greg. Greg's like, "No, not Greg. The bald guy. What's his name?"
No idea.
I think it is Greg.
Oh, I thought.
Anyway.
Anyway.
You thinking of Russ?
No,
Well, Russ
I'm
is
thinking of
gone.
Russ, but
You're thinking of
Greg,
Russ.
but it was Greg. It was Greg. Greg goes, "Hey, she got you there, buddy," because he had heard him tell me all about the podcast, how he listens and all the things. And then he
Wow.
said that. He's like, "When did that happen?" And I said, "Well, I got engaged back in October. The episode was in November."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I have to go find that." That was funny.
Well, you should do that, Joe. In a way, yeah. Matthew Perry did pass away when you got engaged.
Well, that's true, and it was very sad, but that's also kind of old news at this point, buddy. And I'm certain Mom and Dad already knew about it.
Yeah.
I just want to share that with Mom and
Thank
Dad
you.
and Jagger. of
Okay.
course.
Thank you,
Thank you
buddy.
for sharing. Well, today I would like to get into our topic of the day because I am very excited to have both Mom and Dad here because we have twice on this podcast done a deep dive about Down syndrome with Mom, but we have yet to talk about Down syndrome with Dad. And Dad was a little hesitant when I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this." He's like, "Hey, your mom knows way more." And I was like, "Yeah, but Dad, you were there."
Yeah, he was there.
And
I was.
he
But she's done all the work ever since.
I'm like, so
Wow.
But he lets
Well-
me do all the talking.
Well, I know Mom does most of the talking, most of the advocating, but I think you might take a passenger seat in that, but you also know the experience better than anyone else besides Mom. And you were the one that was there to support Mom the most. And so what I kind of want to know is, like, from your perspective, do your best to take yourself back to 1997 in the hospital. You guys get this diagnosis. I know, and one of the questions that we did get asked in the Instagram story today was, did you know about the diagnosis before Derek was born? And the answer to that is no. But once you guys learned of the diagnosis, what were your thoughts? How did you feel about it?
I mean, I didn't really know that much about it, honestly. I mean, I didn't have any experience with it whatsoever. I mean, I didn't know where, I didn't know what the world would be like. I mean, I knew there was, he was going to have Down syndrome. But I mean, your mom had a cousin that had that, so she had experience. I really didn't.
You knew Shannon, though. You'd met her.
Yeah, I had met Shannon.
So
Do
Shout
you
out-
remember what you
shout
said
out
to me?
Shannon.
I don't remember.
Because I mean, I said it in the first time we talked about it, but you said to me after he was born and diagnosed, "I can't wait to see who he is when he grows up because I think he's going to be pretty freaking awesome."
Boy, was I wrong. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Wow.
that's what you get for yelling at him during the weekly wrestling
Yeah.
wrap-up.
Enough.
Yeah.
Dang, Dad. When you could bring that out?
I don't know.
Do you think Dad thinks you're cool now? Or I think Dad would think you were cooler if you liked going hunting with
Yeah.
him.
If you weren't so dang lazy and you wouldn't mind taking walks in the woods.
Yeah, there's that.
Well, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
That's
And
funny.
sometimes around wrestling, I always be a fighter.
He'd like to be a fighter in the ring, but he's not trying to be a fighter in the woods.
I did try to take Derek out a couple of weeks ago and prep him for shooting a turkey. That didn't go all that great. he shot the gun 4 times.
4 times.
4 times. That was it. And when I said, come on, just shoot it a couple times. 4 times. That's all I shoot it. He got the 4 time. I'm done. I'm not done. I'm not shooting anymore.
Did you have on protective headgear? Ear gear?
Everything.
Good.
Everything.
He had glasses on. Well, he had his own glasses on, but
Do I have video of him shooting the gun? I know I have video. Do I need to go back and watch him shoot the guns?
Let's not do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got some stuff there.
I think you put it in the album for me. I think I
Yeah.
forgot about it, though. I need to
I
go back and
forgot
take a
about
look
it
You
at
too.
it.
may
Sounds about right.
take a look if you like, but
Okay.
do not post
Okay,
it on
so
TikTok.
even though you didn't know much about it, do you remember how you felt? Like, were you scared? Were you what?
Yeah. I mean, I there was obviously anxiety, but I mean, it's just, it's something you have to go through. We didn't choose it, but you just move on through life and make the best of it. And boy, did we make the best of it.
And there's a
All but the turkey hunt part. That we were still trying to conquer.
Well, he also had to really step up and take care of you.
Yeah.
What'd we do?
Well, he was in the hospital for an extended stay.
Which
And
means I was
which
in the
Mom
hospital.
was in the hospital.
Is
for an
that when you started making
extended
me
stay.
hamburger helper mac and cheese?
Oh, I'm sure we had some of that. But I think you were
that is
maybe
delicious.
4.
She was 3.
I was 3.5 when
3.
Derek was born. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember you wanted to sleep in bed with me, and I just remember you crying one night, saying something like, I said, what's wrong with you? I'm worried about my brother.
Aw.
He was cute.
Oh.
I'm worried about I love my brother. I'm worried about my brother.
Sounds
So-
like you were softy before your mother was.
Oh, she was always so
like
nurturing.
mother, like
to
daughter,
you.
huh?
I'm
you were,
nice.
You were her little, your little project, little nurse. She just nursed you all the time, and then Katie was her little Barbie doll. She dressed her up and did her hair, and yeah.
Are you telling me right now, Dad, you think I'm cool and awesome and Katie Baker is a little Barbie brat?
No,
That's not what he said.
Actually, one of the funny things growing up, when you guys were growing up, you and Mom and I like to travel. We like to sightsee. We like to go do things, and we would take you guys all over the place. And I remember several times when I remember one place was in Cherokee, North Carolina, when we were out walking around, and you didn't want to walk anywhere. And Jenna's like, I'm bored. I'm going to sit over here and stay with him. And Katie was the exciting one
That's because she was the youngest.
that wanted to go see things.
I was excited when I was her age too.
That happened at Asheville, North Carolina, and then it also happened at Bryce Canyon. I remember at Bryce Canyon.
Oh,
we were
I
there.
remember the Red Rocks trip.
Oh,
for sure.
she hated the red. Katie thought it was wonderful to see all the
I was definitely a bratty teenager at that point.
you were obnoxious.
Yeah, well, you'll be all right. You were, got to watch Mom be this advocate, and I know Mom really stepped up and had to figure out a lot of things in that time about, there was the whole you weren't there, but she had to watch Derek get, done with the defibrillator, and then she kind of took the reins on everything with the Bell Center. So how did you support her, and what did her role look like then to you?
Worldwide, there's all I'm gonna say.
Well, she was just a rock star. I mean, she was as good a mom as anyone could possibly be to their baby, without a doubt. And I was just there helping her.
Like I said,
She was a way better mom than I was a dad. I mean, I was there, but
Well, I mean,
she was
I
the
took
nurturer. She did everything.
I took the reins and figured it out, and he was there to support me, and when I needed somebody to back me up, he was there. But he showed up. I mean, it's not like
I was gonna say you were there. You
Yeah,
might not have been the
Well,
talker. You might not have been the,
No, I was there, but your mom did all the heavy lifting.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're going to fast forward real quick.
Oh,
I do
wow.
want to go back to some of the topics that I wanted to talk about. Potentially we'll go back and maybe we'll just talk about it next time, Mom. But we gotta talk about this story really quick.
Oh my goodness.
Do you know where I'm going?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so when Derek was in elementary school, he had a speech therapist.
Yeah.
And this is my version of the story. It's a very short version because I wasn't there, and this is just the short version that has come with us all these years. But Derek had a speech therapist. He was in second grade?
Fourth grade.
Okay. He was
Third
in
grade. Third grade. Third grade.
Third grade.
Kelly
Fourth
McCarthy's class.
So this is what happened. The speech therapist was surprised that what?
We weren't French.
Yeah, she said, I thought you were French. Why would...
Do you want me to just tell the story?
You
What
tell
would,
the story.
what would
You tell
make
the
you
story.
think we
So
were French?
we were
Oui, oui.
waiting. We were waiting, and I just know it was Kelly McCarthy's class. He was in third grade. Kelly was an amazing teacher, and we were waiting to visit with Kelly. It was parent teacher conferences. Dad was there. He always showed up, and we were there waiting to talk to her. And the speech therapist walks in, first time we ever met her, and I don't know, we're maybe halfway through the first semester or something. I don't know,
Something like that.
And she asks, are we Derek's parents? Yeah, we're Derek's parents. Because, of course, that was the next scheduled meeting, right? And she says, oh, my goodness, I thought you were French. And we're like, oh, okay. Why? Like, why? Why would you think we were French? And she said, well, you have a daughter named Jenna and a dog named Ginger.
Ginger and Jenna.
Yeah, and I think Dad and I probably both
We looked at
laughed
her and started
out
laughing.
loud. And I said, no, we have a daughter named Jenna and a dog named Ginger, and that's why my son needs a speech therapist.
So now in my
Oh.
version of this story, I have always told it that she
I
maybe
always
caught
be
you
the
on a bad
brat.
day and you were a little more sassy
Oh,
than you're
no.
letting
No,
on
I wasn't
now.
sassy.
No,
And then
no.
Dad was kind of like, let me take it from here.
Shout out to you.
And
Tik
started
Tok.
doing the talking.
No,
No, I don't think that happened.
I just
Oh.
said, yeah, we got a daughter named Jenna and a dog named Ginger, and that's why Derek needs a speech therapist. Yeah,
You didn't have to take over after that?
No, I think
I think she got the point.
she got the point. She thought, yeah. it
She
was-
kind of giggled too. I mean, it was just like, yeah, no.
I don't know. I remember all those days we had to do those IEP
Oh,
meetings. and-
God. Do you
they
remember
were
the
so
very
annoying.
first one?
Oh, yeah. I remember the first one because they, before you could get an, IEP,
Before you could get qualified for services,
qualify for services.
for
yeah.
special education services, you had to go through this whole
They
thing.
had to prove a need. Well, he's got a diagnosed need.
Genetic diagnosis.
Genetic diagnosis. He had to go through. He did all this testing, and then they came back and they said, he's, I don't know exactly the words they used, but basically he's, got a low IQ and he's got mental retardation. And all of a sudden they say that and they all spin and look at us.
And there's like 30
they're-
people in the
yeah.
room.
And they're
And it's me and your dad.
and they're like waiting for a reaction.
He's
like,
3 years old. We're like,
yeah, we know.
We know.
We know.
He has Down syndrome.
Down
That's,
syndrome since the day he was born.
It's not like
I'm like, I don't
newsflash.
really prefer the word. Can we call it something different? Like, how about a developmental
But
delay?
It was
But
like they had to go through this whole process.
Yeah,
it was just a waste.
it was a waste of time and money.
Yes.
And I say this to this day. I think there should be 2 pathways to qualify for special education services. If you've got a genetic diagnosis, Down syndrome, like, why did we have to go through? I mean, we went through hours of discussion.
Hours.
Your dad
It's
and
not
I.
like autism where it's
Right.
like there's a delayed diagnosis.
Exactly. He went through hours of testing, and it was. And I'm sitting there thinking, as a finance person, I'm looking at these, 20 to 30 people in this room. It's all these. I mean, it's administrators from McKelvey, even though he's only 3, because that was their homeschool, right? It was the early childhood people. Then it's all the, the physical therapists. So, developmental, blah, 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 right? All these,
Staff members.
which are
Educators.
specialists, right? And and then there's admin from special school district too, and I'm just like, what's the freaking salary in the room right now? They literally went through probably at least 45 minutes of, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do
Oh,
this,
yeah,
he
it was
doesn't do
so
this,
annoying.
and I'm just like,
Come on. Yeah, we know. We live with him. He's
yeah, the kid still pees in his pants in a diaper. I know he's
7
3. Like,
years
tell me
old.
something I don't know. No, he was only 3. But anyway, and then they're like,
Well, he was till he was 7. I remember
well,
that.
it was 6.
Me too, Derek.
Yeah. I love that, Jack.
Sorry, Derek.
And then they're like,
That's right.
you know, his diagnosis is MR. And they did. They all snapped their heads and looked at us like, what do you think we're going to do? Go, really? Like, no effing. We know. Yeah, it was something else. And then they're like, he qualifies. We're like, we know.
We knew that before you did this.
Like, how much money did this take? That's what I had in my head, is how much money did this cost?
To tell us something we already knew.
Parkway School District, Special School District, the state of Missouri, for you to tell me my son has a developmental delay. Guess what? I knew that at 5 days old.
Yeah.
But anyway, I understand there needs to be a process to get kids services, because parents would always want extra services for their kids because you want to do the best that you can. And I get that, but I still think there should be 2 pathways to receive those services. You've got a genetic diagnosis. Duh. A kid with Down syndrome is going to get special services. Period. End of discussion. And then you've got a more involved process that maybe you have to go through
I mean, you
for
need to
kids
do-
who have other diagnoses, including, you know, ADHD and learning disabilities and different things like that. I mean, there are people that I know in your life that you may not even know got special services when they were in
Yeah.
school.
Right.
You
I
know?
probably could have gotten it. I probably could have gotten extra time on testing at a minimum.
You might have, but yeah.
That's about it. That's all I really needed.
Speaking
Yeah.
of
And
that,
for not so many people to tell me I talk too much.
Well, I got that too.
I got to know, Mom, what is the little story about ADHD?
ADHD.
Yeah, tell me the story. What was that about? I gotta know. I never learned
Okay, well,
about it.
here's what happened. Jenna went to college, and it was hard. Jenna never struggled
Okay.
in elementary school, middle school, high school. She always pretty much got straight A's.
But I did get told I talk too much all the time.
I got told I
You
talked
have.
too much my entire life too.
Yeah, well, my therapist thinks that you might have had ADHD
I
too.
maybe I did. I don't know,
Or
but
maybe you do.
maybe I do. Who
It
knows?
is genetic.
But
Can be.
regardless of that, she got to college, and she struggled her first semester. I struggled
wow.
mine too, but I think mine was more alcohol related than study related, if we're being honest. But and maybe it was for you too. Who knows? But
Not
anyway,
first semester.
I
not even
overcame.
really freshman year. I
but
never really
regardless, so she was struggling, and she talked to her doctor, and she went through a bunch of testing, and that was the diagnosis that she received, and they put her on some medicine to help her focus. Now, did I need that when I was a young person like her? Who the heck knows? And, you know, she's off that med now, and she's learning how to cope with her ADHD without the assistance of medication. And if I've had it my whole life, I just figured it out without ever going through that step of medication.
Wow, that was a great story.
Can I tell you what really happened?
Back in our day, we got the Board of Education.
This is what happened, Derek. I
Go ahead.
was in political science, and it was a terrible, terrible subject, and I hated every second of it. But I was really struggling in it.
Science was one of my favorite subjects before you guys struggle with it.
Science and political science are 2 very different things. And let me tell you what, you would not like political science, okay? You would think it was just as boring as I thought it was.
If I take that class, it's going to be a lot of struggle for me.
You would not want to take that
You
class.
would struggle with
That's
political science, trust me.
I promise.
But you would sleep well.
Yeah, exactly.
During the class.
So I was in political science.
true.
There was like 500 students in this class, maybe more. And I was sitting close to the front. I was trying to take notes. I was trying to pay attention. I was really trying hard. Like, I was trying harder in this class than I had ever tried in any other class I'd ever taken. And I was even gifted at one point, which is because I have a very strong creative side, hence Baker Banter. But I was in this class and I was struggling so much, and I would fall asleep in class almost every time I got in there. That was the only class I was falling asleep in. I could not keep my eyes open, even though I was trying to stay awake. And then I would go to the student center and I would eat a good lunch and I would eat a good breakfast and I would get a workout in and I would actually get good sleep. Even as a freshman in high school, I would get a pretty good night's sleep.
Freshman in college.
And I would go to the student center and I would sit down and I would start to try to study political science and I would fall asleep. And I kept calling Mom and I'm like, there is something wrong with me. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I have a sleeping problem. I don't understand why this keeps happening, but this is what I'm doing every day, trying really hard, and I keep falling asleep. And then I came home on a break one day from college, and we went to go see Dr. Lazaroff, and I told Dr. Lazaroff all about this issue I was having, and that's when he started testing me for the ADHD, and that's when I got diagnosed with ADHD.
There you go.
Wow.
By a doctor.
It is a medical diagnosis.
That is one interesting story.
We would just drop that class and find something more interesting to say.
I think I had to take it for some
You
reason.
did.
I think it was a journalism
You did.
under.
Everybody took political science.
I was going
We
to say
took
I
political
don't think I
science.
had
I don't think we had to take political.
I
I don't think we had to take political
No,
science.
I took political
I think you had to
science.
take so many.
I think as a journalism
Electives.
major, that was one of the ones that we had. That was
it
like
may
an
have been.
elect.
It may have
Not.
been.
It was like an elective, not elective. Like
Yeah.
it was a required. Because I mean, in the news part of journalism, they need to know about political
there were
science.
so many
You know?
classes in college that bored me to tears. Sociology, psychology. I mean, if it had ology on the end, it was boring.
There you
Well,
go.
There's that. So okay, I want.
Sorry to all you teachers out there
Oh my goodness.
that teach those
Oh, wow.
subjects.
Okay. I do want to run through a couple of questions since we have both Mom and Dad here. We did get some questions from our Instagram followers today.
Yep.
So, Dad, we talked about this a little bit with Mom last time, so I want to talk to you first with this question. This is from Cowboy131. How was Derek as a toddler? And you can answer that like, how was Derek as a toddler? And then also like, how was Derek as a toddler in comparison to Katie and I?
I don't know. I mean, he was an easy baby. He was an easy kid all along. He was, he didn't need a lot of attention. He is able to entertain himself on his own. I mean, I don't know.
And that's what before I started studying a lot of wrestling.
Well,
He didn't get into things like you girls. I mean, and you guys weren't bad. You were pretty easy kids too, but he was just easier, really.
Do you think he was easier?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was just, I mean, he's not somebody who wants to move around a lot. So I, put him down and say, here's your toys. And maybe go make dinner or whatever.
He was happy.
He
he's
was
a happy kid.
just happy to sit there and play with his toys and
Rarely
hang out.
did he cry about anything or
Yeah,
whine.
he had this.
Katie was the worst when it come to that. Oh, she
Oh my god.
She needed her way, and she would cry and whine and.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was bad. Sorry, Katie.
I remember the bear.
Oh my God, yeah,
The
buying
bear.
that bear at Yellowstone.
And I remember when we go to church or take Katie to church. She didn't have a filter either. Do you remember that?
She was so loud.
She was so loud. She'd say, "I gotta go to the bathroom, Mom." She wouldn't whisper, "I gotta go to the bathroom, Mommy." She'd go, "Mommy, I gotta go to the bathroom." Everybody, the whole church was
Yeah.
here.
Well, Derek doesn't have a filter anymore.
Yeah. No, he was a super easy baby. I mean, he did things slower. He walked later. He talked later. He
Potty trained later.
potty trained later. We did learn sign language with him when he was
That was cool.
pushing 1 year
Actually,
old.
that was
Just
cool,
because.
Mom.
You remember
Do you know
any
what
of
this
it?
means, Derek?
More.
Yeah. More.
Good job, D.
What's this one?
Oh, I don't know that we did
I
that.
don't know,
It might be
shark?
Shark.
Fish?
I don't know.
I don't know, buddy.
Dad? What are you? You're pointing at Dad. I don't think that means Dad, but
That's like it. Dad is a shark.
There you
yeah,
go.
okay.
Yeah, he knew the signs.
The
and
big shark.
We started signing with him because his vocabulary took a little longer.
Eat and water,
Yeah, drink.
drink,
Pizza was like this. He liked pizza.
pizza. Yeah.
Well, it was
Two fingers.
Yeah,
What an apple.
maybe. It's been a long time.
It is cool to be in mom and dad's shoes. From a 3-year-old to 27 years old, I think this young man definitely goes wild in that wrestling ring. So you guys raised me up good.
You didn't even like to wrestle.
You didn't even like
oh,
wrestling.
I want to wrestle. I
until-
want to wrestle. Then he gets out there and he goes, "Oh, there, I got to touch sweaty boys."
Yeah.
Ew.
You didn't like it. You
Yeah,
didn't
you-
last very
You
long.
quit that pretty quickly.
Well, he would like performative wrestling.
That's true. That's different.
It is different.
You're still touching other sweaty boys, but
Definitely still doing that. So Derek
Well,
had
I did touch Stephanis, so
You-
it was fine.
were very well versed in the Heimlich when we were growing up.
yeah,
it was scary for me.
He choked
Yeah.
on a grape. He choked on a peanut M&M. Yeah,
I did
and my first response is always just Eric.
And much louder than
I
that.
did-
But
I
luckily
did
she
pop
spared
that,
our
I
eardrums.
didn't pop the grape out of him, but I got him back to breathing again.
So tell that story.
You know,
It was Super Bowl Sunday.
It was Super
It
Bowl
was-
Sunday.
it
He
was-
was sitting at the kitchen counter with Brian Epperson.
Brian Epperson was here, yeah.
And he's just popping these grapes in his mouth, and all of a sudden Brian's like, "Phil, Eric, and you are
I was watching a movie in your room.
watching a movie in my bedroom. There's next thing you know, 10
movie?
paramedics and firefighters in our kitchen. You have no
I think it might
idea.
have been the Aristocats.
No idea. I run in to get my purse because I'm gonna hop in the ambulance. You're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "What?" You know. There's
You're screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I walk outside and there's these huge men in
Yeah.
uniform. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, the firehouse is
But
here.
he had it hung in his throat, but I got him to where he was breathing.
Yeah, he was breathing. He wasn't turning blue, but he couldn't get it up.
couldn't
And
get it
then
out.
once
But he was turning blue before that.
well,
Or he was not breathing well.
I don't remember.
I-
He
it
it never
was-
got
It was never
critical,
Yeah, it was never critical.
but it was.
And on the
we,
way,
we were very concerned.
it was concerned. He couldn't. He kept spitting water up, and it was funny. I remember the firefighters like, "Does he always do this?" We're like, "No, dude. He's got a fucking grape in." Oh, sorry. He's got a grape in his throat. No, he doesn't just spit water out. We get some funny questions. It's kind of like when he started swimming, and Chris called the athletic director and goes, "Can he really swim?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, he can swim." I'm like,
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, we're going to come back to this story really quick, but I'm going to hijack it real fast. So Derek was swimming one time at Aquaport. And Aquaport, I used to work at Aquaport. Katie worked at Aquaport. It's the water park near our house. And Derek was there one time. Sam Heiniger was manager on duty. And Derek went down what they call the toilet bowl or the tornado. I don't know
which
what
I
they
was
call it
never
now.
a huge fan of him doing that, but
I think it was called the tornado, and everybody called it the toilet
Yeah.
bowl.
It might be called the tornado, but we all called it the toilet bowl. That might be true. But regardless, he goes down this slide. It's like a spinny slide, and then at the bottom, it's a tube going through, and then once you
it
hit the
drops
middle, it's
into a
like a
funnel.
tornado funnel looking thing, and then you drop into a whirlpool at the bottom,
which was very deep. It
which was deep. It was the
7
deepest
feet.
place in the park,
Yeah.
and it was spinning. It was
and
a whirlpool.
yeah, it was whirlpool.
And Derek always did fine with it. But the thing about Derek swimming is he often swam underwater.
Yes, he did.
So Derek was at Aquaport one day, and this lifeguard, who was actually fraternity brothers with Chris, was on stand and didn't know Derek, like a lot of the other lifeguards knew Derek. And Derek went down the bowl, and he landed, and he was swimming underwater, and he didn't come back up quick enough for the lifeguard's liking. And the lifeguard long whistled, which means I'm going in to make a save to save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And he pulls Derek up, and Derek comes up, and he's like, "Why are you touching me, bro?"
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
And Derek's like got his eyes big around. He's like all confused looking at him. And Sam Heiniger was managing at the time. So she comes sprinting out to go figure out who's dying, because that's what the long whistle means, is someone's life is at risk. And she runs down to realize that this guy has gone in after Derek. And she's like, "Don't do that again.
Yeah.
He's okay. He knows
Give
how
him
to swim.
Yeah, give him a couple extra minutes. Or not
Well,
minutes.
I
but-
remember going down that thing, and when you went through and into that bowl, you were kind of disoriented.
You are
You are
disoriented.
disoriented.
You
but
had to take a minute to figure out which direction to swim because it's swirling and.
you have to take. Well, you just have to swim to an edge, and then once you pop up on the edge, then you kind of figure out, all right, which direction do I need
Which
to go?
direction's the light? Do I
Next
go
time I will.
You got to
wear
go up
my
to the light.
Life vests.
No,
Yeah.
you
You
can't wear a
can't
life.
really wear
your
a life
vest
vest,
going
but-
down it. You're only supposed to go down if you're a
But
strong
it would.
enough
I
swimmer.
don't think I mean, the lifeguard did what he thought was best, which is
fine.
perfectly fine.
Totally.
But he probably only gave him like 2 or 3 seconds.
Right.
And he
probably didn't wait
needed
long
about
enough.
15 or 20, and he would have popped up without a problem. So
Yeah.
It probably never went that long.
No. He probably went in after like 2 or 3, and
Yeah.
Derek needed like 6.
Right.
Right.
But
so
that's okay.
he was.
But back to the grape story. So
Yeah.
so Derek gets choking on a grape. The firehouse shows up. You and Derek are leaving in the ambulance. And at this point, the grape has not reappeared.
right.
And what happened in the ambulance?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if we were off the street. I mean, we were definitely not to the hospital yet. And he kind of, kind of spit it up. And he's like, can we go back home now? And the paramedic's like, sorry, dude, you're in the ambulance. You're going to the hospital. So we had to go all the way. But yeah, it came up. But then he had
you got a bear out of the deal or something, didn't you?
Oh,
no,
I
they
don't
probably gave him some gift from
I
the
think-
hospital or
Yeah.
something.
They got something. I don't remember
I
what
think
it
they
was.
did, and I think I brought him cookies and said thank you for being so kind and whatever. But I know one time it was just you 3 were. I don't know if I was home with Katie or if it was before Katie was born when he was choking on that peanut M&M. You were headed to see Bruce, as I recall. And you'd given him peanut M&Ms, and of course I hollered at you for that. But
Imagine that.
I still don't give him hard candies or lifesavers or cough drops or anything like that.
So this is a question from Tracy Trask. Was Derek mainstreamed through the school years or in special education?
He was.
I'm awesome.
You are awesome.
You are
Especially in
awesome.
schools.
We
Especially
wanted him in
school.
the main classroom as much as possible because
Yeah.
we wanted him with typically developing students because when he got out of school, he was going to be, that's where he was going to be.
Yeah.
So how did you guys kind of like come to that determination?
I don't know if it's something we ever really talked about. I do remember when we were transitioning from the early childhood program into the school, I got a phone call from one of the counselors, and she was like, oh, we got this great program for kids like Derek at this other school, and you should go check that out, and yada, yada. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, what do you mean, no? I said, Derek will go to school with his sister. That's how we're doing this. We're going to have to figure this out. So I think one thing that maybe young parents don't know is that they can tell the school no. Like,
and
that's,
you need to advocate for your kids.
Yeah, you
I
know.
mean, you know what's best for a person like Derek. I mean, he's learned to read, but he's never going to learn to read at the level that typically developing a student. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is can he socialize with people, and he's got that part down.
Yeah. But I just flat out said no. We are absolutely not considering any school other than our home school. He's going to go to school with his sister. When there's a carnival, it's going to be their carnival. When there's field day, it's going to be their field day. When it's ice cream night, it's going to be their ice cream night. I am not going to be involved with 2 separate schools
Right.
to make it easier for you, Parkway. And I never got pushback from that.
Not
I just
really.
said
They were-
no.
They were
Was
fine
Derek
with
the
it.
first person with Down syndrome to go through that elementary school?
I think there was a girl who was several years older than Derek, but it was very few people with that kind of involved disability at McKelvey, I mean, there was a lot of kids with IEPs, but not, every child
Not
with a
necessarily with a-
disability isn't as involved as every other child, right?
Not necessarily with a Down syndrome
Um,
diagnosis.
Yeah, I mean, he was the only one that had Down syndrome in the building until our buddy Cade came along when, Katie started school. And of course, Meg was, beyond thrilled when she's touring the school and she sees Derek. She's like, well, you can take care of him. You can take care of him. Right. So I think that, parents have to understand that. I mean, I think for the most part, and we were very fortunate. I have nothing but kind things to say about Parkway or Special School District and the experiences that we had with them. But sometimes they will try to take a maybe a path that's a least resistance path for themselves that would have provided probably the same good education, but it's not necessarily the easiest path for the family, right? Might have been easier for them to put him in a special education class over at Riverbend, which was a Parkway Central school.
Might have provided the same education, but it wasn't going to provide the same social circumstances.
Yeah. And, so I think that, parents need to understand that they have the right to say, that doesn't work for me. Kids are supposed to be put in the least restrictive environment. So prove to me that he can't go to my home school, right? And that's kind of where I came from. And, he was way more integrated into general education in elementary school. When we got into middle school, there was some classes that maybe, like math, like the gap between his academic math situation and the sixth graders in typical math classes was pretty big. And so he was in a resource room for math, and, when we got into high school, there was a little bit more, discrepancy between his academics and his, typically developing peers. So he spent more time in a resource room in high school. But, I always, and I think, I led the charge. That's just the reality of our situation. And Dad, always agreed with the way that, kind of I was taking his education plan. It was like, I want him to be in the least restrictive environment unless it just doesn't make sense. I don't want Derek sitting in, Katie, now looking at Katie as a teacher, right? Katie's algebra class with his eyes glazing over. He's not going to get algebra, and that's okay. Right? So, we did the best we could. And
I always get straight A's.
I know you did. I know you did.
You did better than me.
And I don't mind doing it again.
You are welcome to go back to high school, but I'm not going back with you.
Bro, ain't no way you want to go to high school. Do you know what time Katie has to be at high school?
Oh, that's true. You got to get up really early.
You like to sleep in and stay up late, my guy.
You do have a fair point.
I know.
No, you did great in school. And we tried to make a reasonable balance between being in general education and until the point where, in my mind, it just didn't make sense.
Right. This kind of goes in, you've kind of already answered this, but I just want to see if you have anything else that you want to add with this question. But it's Dara Mag 3. How did Derek integrate at school?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, in elementary, he was, pulled out very little. And then as he got older and older and older, and that academic gap continued to kind of widen, then he was pulled out a little bit more. But, even in high school, like all of his electives, he was in gen ed, right? He went to cooking class with everybody else. He went to PE with everybody else. He went to, chorus and choir and drama with all the other kids. And it got to the point when he was in high school, when he was younger, he always had a paraprofessional that worked kind of one-on-one with him, where, that's kind of an extra teacher in the classroom who was maybe modifying the curriculum for him or whatever, kind of on the fly. As he got older, some of the kids would have a para walk them from class to class and that kind of thing. When he was in high school, man, if he had to leave the class to his resource room, which had, most of his core curriculum by that time, math, English, science, social studies, he just left and he walked the halls by himself and he navigated it.
Wasn't the bigger problem not so much where to go and how to get there, but getting there in a timely fashion because he talked to too many girls on the way?
Sure. We had that problem from the time he was in kindergarten, is transitioning from one place to another because there were so many people to see and hug and talk to and do all the things.
Derek gave me a look like I was crazy. I know you had problems getting from class to class because you were giving out too many hugs.
Yeah. Well, when he was in elementary school, they actually had to have a conversation with your classmates saying, y'all can't hug Derek when you pass him in the hallway. You slow his whole class down and you slow your whole class down.
But he's so huggable.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, overall, we had a great experience. We did the best we could do, and Derek did the best he could do. And I think, his skills just continue to improve over time. I mean, the reading he does now is well beyond what it was when he was in high school. I think getting a phone was huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we were so worried about him losing it, right?
And now even just
now you can't take it away from him.
Now when we started Baker Banter versus today, like one of the biggest problems we had at the beginning of Baker Banter was Derek would only want to communicate with me via calling me.
Yeah.
And I remember one time when we had just first started Baker Banter and it was prime COVID lockdown and Derek called me 17 times in a row.
Yeah.
And when I was ready to call him back, I called him back and I'm like, bro,
Right.
never again.
Right.
And that's when we really started working with him on texting. And you still, to this day, you're not physically typing words out, but you have learned how to use your voice to text better so that you text. And now we do all of our weekly wrestling wrap-up topics via text.
Yeah.
Because you continue to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn because you're a smart dude.
I'm good at it for sure.
Siri's pretty smart, too, because she had to learn a lot of his lingo.
Siri is very impressive. Like, I'm always telling
Sometime-
Kyle, I'm like, hey, Kyle,
sometime-
we need an Apple sponsorship because the way Siri has been capable of adapting to Derek's speech and his, phonetics and all the things, it is impressive.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially
occasionally
with the WWE name.
Yeah, but you sometimes, man, you get an off-color one. You're like, whoa, did he really say that?
Phoebe sent us a screenshot of a Snapchat from a couple years ago about how I know my story is annoying, but you need to keep washing it. Not watching, washing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's wrong.
Probably it was. Okay. Well, I think that is all we have time for today. Dad, thank you for joining us. Thank you for talking Down syndrome. Thank you. I think this is lovely that we got to have Mom and Dad on for this conversation. What a surprise we weren't expecting. That is all we have time for today. We will be back on Thursday with another weekly wrestling wrap up. Mom, I did tell Derek on the weekly wrestling wrap up, but we are for sure going to Monday Night Raw thanks to our good friend Maxine Dupree.
Well, thank you, Maxine. That'll be fun.
So next Monday we will be in Kansas City celebrating Katie's birthday without her at Monday Night Raw.
I guess I'm
On the
having dinner with Katie.
WWE draft date.
Yes, it's the WWE draft. We're gonna get to be there.
So fun, Derek. I'm happy for you.
Can you imagine? Maybe, just maybe,
Maybe they're going to draft you.
maybe,
Oh boy,
just
here we go.
maybe, Anna Pierce
We'll see you in the crowd and pluck you out.
was me to take over for Monday Night Raw draft.
Oh my goodness. Maybe you'll get lucky. All right, that is all we have time for today. Thank you guys both for joining us. Thank you guys for listening.
Let's not forget, we already headed to Dynasty this coming Wednesday.
Well, by the time this episode comes out, we'll know whether or not we made it to Dynasty. And as of right now, I don't. And actually, Dynasty's on Sunday. But I don't know for sure that we're going to that. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
What should they do with this podcast episode, Derek?
Share,
like,
Subscribe.
subscribe, baby.
subscribe. Find us on Cameo. Find us on Snapchat at Baker Banter. And find our merch on bakerbanter.com. And thank you guys for being here. Make sure to tell your friends about our podcast, especially if you're enjoying it. Leave a good review, and we will talk to you next time.
Time for a
Peace.
regular wrestling wrap up.
Peace.